Want to know what we got very wrong about perimenopause? And I'm not talking about you and me. This is a question that I've been asking myself for quite a while, especially as I wrote my newest manuscript for my upcoming book, The Perimenopause Revolution. How did society and the healthcare system fail women throughout this important transition? Needless to say, it's not just one thing. I wish it were that simple. These are deep-seated societal beliefs about women in midlife that have put women at a deep disadvantage when it comes to whole body health and disease prevention, especially as we age. For decades, biased research and a deep knowledge gap in the healthcare system has led us to believe that women were just small men, and the only focus when it came to women's health centered around bikini medicine. In case this term is new to you, bikini medicine is based on the mistaken belief that women's health only differs from men's in the parts of the body that a bikini would cover. Of course, reproductive health and breast health are critically important, but what about the rest of a woman's body throughout her lifetime, especially in midlife and beyond, when her reproductive system is going offline? What about the health of a woman's heart, brain, muscles, mitochondria, and microbiome? Until very recently, most researchers and healthcare providers were unconsciously working within the deep-seated societal belief that women are essentially men with different reproductive organs. Yet evidence tells us that women and men can experience many diseases differently and at different rates. And to be honest, it's not looking good for women in postmenopause, especially with the way that we are treating women in perimenopause. Here's some stats. Women are twice as likely to have anxiety and depression as men. Women are over 3 times more likely than men to be diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder, including those that attack the brain, like multiple sclerosis. Women are up to 4 times more likely to suffer from migraines and headaches than men, me included. Women are more likely than men to die of heart disease. Strokes kill more women than men. 2 out of every 3 Alzheimer patients are women, and women in their 60s are twice as likely to develop Alzheimer's as they are to develop breast cancer. This emphasis on bikini medicine leave perimenopausal women stranded without effective solutions to support their whole body. Because when women showed up at their doctor with a myriad of symptoms that were not connected to their reproductive system, like menstrual cycle irregularities or lumpy breasts, many women were told that their symptoms were a result of aging or being a mom or stress, and to just find a way to suck it up, eat less, exercise more, or they're offered hormonal birth control, which has been regarded as the bikini medicine fix-all and catch-all for women's health issues. Women have been told repeatedly that they are too young for perimenopause, under the assumption that perimenopausal symptoms are in essence menopausal symptoms, something that can be treated with a pharmaceutical drug like Premarin, known as conjugated equine estrogen or birth control pills. This is based on the same deep societal belief that symptoms of declining reproductive health are vaginal dryness, hot flashes, night sweats, low libido, and irregular or missed menstrual cycles. For many years, perimenopause was assumed to only take place in late perimenopause, basically the final 1 to 3 years leading to menopause, which again, when we think about menopause, it's defined as not having a period for 12 plus months. We now know that this is not true. Perimenopause can last anywhere from 4 to 10 plus years, and symptoms can encompass the entire body, especially the brain. The final misconception about perimenopause that we got wrong was the long-term whole body changes that occur throughout the perimenopausal transition leading to menopause. This has been called the Great Menopause Myth by my dear friends, Kristen and Maria, authors of The Great Menopause Myth. This is the myth that is still extremely prevalent today. Until recently, we have been led to believe that perimenopause is a chaotic moment in time when women experience disruptive symptoms as hormones are erratically declining, which is very true for many women, most of us, honestly. But the myth is that's been being perpetuated by healthcare providers and society alike is this, that women can expect the roller coaster of symptoms to subside and go away once they stop having a period. Once everything levels out or bottoms out and our reproductive hormones go away in menopause, we are free and clear. But this is not true. Not for most of us. This myth has cost us dearly because it leaves us with little option to prevent disease and the ensuing symptoms. Perimenopausal women often incur this cost because it disrupts their work, relationships, marriages, and their quality of life. Without viable solutions to address perimenopausal symptoms, women are left to flounder with subpar care and crippling symptoms. I can't tell you how many women have come to me over the years and shared the amount of doctors they have gone to in order to get support and treatment in perimenopause and have come up empty. I believe it's an average of 6 to 7 doctor visits before they get any help at all, or that they are recognized as being in perimenopause at all. I've heard story after story of women going through perimenopause and feeling completely unprepared and also feeling unsupported. Many women I talk to don't even know that they are in perimenopause. Their physicians would tell them either, sorry, you're just getting older, or just get on birth control to manage your symptoms. The prevailing thought has been that women's health stops mattering when a reproductive health span comes to an end. And this is not only lazy medicine, but so uncalled for. We deserve better than this. Don't you agree? We deserve to know what to look out for in early perimenopause while we still have a regular cycle, yet symptoms start to present themselves. And you know that feeling when things start to shift because you start to not feel like yourself anymore. We deserve a what to expect when you hit perimenopause manual. And luckily, I have created that for you. It's your very own Thriving in Perimenopause survival guide with optimal lab ranges, symptom tracker, and my best tools and lifestyle strategies to manage and mitigate the symptoms and the whole body changes that your body goes through. Now, all you got to do is go to drmariza.com/perimenopause survival, and I will have the link in the show notes. It's going to provide you with top-notch care and expert recommendations that freaking work. The truth is that perimenopause is a critical period that sets the course for the rest of your life. The changes in hormone levels that you experience in perimenopause impact every aspect of your physiology, whether or not symptoms are present. Things are going on behind the scenes, like loss of muscle mass, insulin resistance, low-grade inflammation. These things are happening and they're sneaky. Even women who make it to menopause without disruptive symptoms still experience physiological changes that will impact their metabolic, neurological, and cardiovascular health. Until we normalize the impact and changes throughout perimenopause into menopause, we won't be able to optimize women's health. While it's always been important to take care of your health, it's essential to understand the changes happening in your body behind the scenes during perimenopause and adjust your lifestyle accordingly. Women deserve to feel alive and vital for as many years as possible, and they deserve to know what's happening to their bodies during this big transition, and ultimately have strategies that set them up to feel amazing in midlife, because each and every one deserves that. We all deserve that. For most women in perimenopause, the symptoms are going to vary, but one thing is for sure, they will experience some brain-related changes like sleep issues, brain fog, mood swings, irritability, night sweats, hot flashes, a lack of stress resilience, mental fatigue, and maybe even anxiousness and a feeling of just being overwhelmed. In fact, 8 out of 10 of the most common symptoms of perimenopause are brain-related. And approximately 70% of women will experience brain-related symptoms during this transition. And one study found that 70% of us will experience irritability as the most common symptom. And let me tell you, that was so true for me yesterday at the start of my cycle when my hormones were severely low, like all of ours are at the start of our cycle. And let me tell you, I was practically crawling out of my skin. I was so irritable. And the first thing I did when I realized I had no stress tolerance or no mental bandwidth for the day is I let my partner know that I was going to need more alone time to kind of help regulate myself. And I'm so grateful that I have someone in my life that is deeply understanding. And he took our son and spent a big chunk of the day with him so that I could regulate myself myself and get myself back to a place where I was showing up in the way that felt good for myself and my family. And the reason why we experience brain-related symptoms is that perimenopause is a neuroendocrine transitional state. What that means is our brains are vastly remodeling during this time of declining hormones. And let me tell you, neuroinflammation along with a decline in glucose metabolism in the brain. So a lot of changes are happening in the brain. It's no wonder that so many of us do not feel like ourselves. And yet the constant narrative that I hear from doctors is that, oh, you just have a lot on your plate. You're too stressed out. And, you're in midlife. This is just the way it is. And those answers are not okay. It's not good enough because it's not helping us to solve the problem. And it's never easy to experience these profound changes in symptoms, especially when you're trying to hold it all together for everybody, because let's be honest, that's what you're doing. And more importantly, especially when you may not know what is going on with your body or on with your brain, and you just think, oh my God, what is wrong with me? Because that's always the narrative. It's so easy to blame ourselves when your nights become sleepless, stress hits the ceiling, and your body feels like it's behaving with a mind of its own. And women have always been taught to blame themselves. And I cannot tell you how many times, when you go to your doctor, they're blaming you too, right? It's your fault that you put on weight. It's your fault that you have anxiety. It's your fault that you are stressed to the nines. It is your fault that, you are feeling brain fogged and unable to focus. Now, the timing of perimenopause, as I've shared a couple times here, feels almost laughable. The irony of when we are struggling to hold our stuff together while raising children, for some of us, they are young, like me, and for others, these kids are in high school, right? Either way, it's a lot all of a sudden, taking care of our parents or siblings, worrying about our partners, and questioning our careers and life, not to mention our own health challenges. If you've been tuning in to the Energized podcast over the past year or so, you've probably heard me say that perimenopause is a moment of reckoning when everything is up for review. And if you can relate to anything I've said so far, please know that you are not alone. Gosh, there are over 24 million of us in perimenopause right now in the US alone. Many women like you are plagued with confusion over issues like these, and they're having a difficult time connecting the dots because they're being told otherwise. Yet when it comes to perimenopause, in order to understand what's not normal, you must first know your own baseline. From periods to moods to even sleep patterns, understanding our own normals is key to recognizing when something changes and it's time to seek support. And it can be any kind of support, whether it's supports from your doctors, from your friends, from a therapist, like getting where you fit in based on what you are needing. Feeling stronger, more confident, and more like yourself begins with understanding what is happening with your body and embracing the tools and practices to help bring it back into balance or to create some level of homeostasis for yourself. Now, if you're wondering where to start, I always say the first place to start is to track your cycle with your symptoms. Now, if you don't have a menstrual cycle, for whatever reason that may be, track your symptoms to identify what stage of perimenopause you are in and to also have an account of your symptoms so that you get the care that you deserve. Like, have the evidence, right? That is really unrefutable when you go to your doctor. I always take even though I've been taking health histories for 17 years, I always go to my doctor's appointments prepared. I have a notepad with symptoms. I have a notepad with labs. I have a notepad with everything I want to talk to. And I just cross that list off. That way, in case I'm getting nervous or I get thrown off or I have a practitioner who, again, throws me under the bus for my own symptoms, I am still prepared. I have this North Star to follow. And I just want to share really quickly to kind of understand, what stage of perimenopause you may be in. And I just want Again, this is just a guiding overview. There's no one size fits all. If anything, it can be a little bit challenging to recognize what stage of perimenopause you are in, but I want to break it down really quickly. So based on medical articles, various sources, and really a lot of community feedback that I've gotten over the years, here's a quick breakdown. Again, no medical advice, just real experiences about, the 4 different stages of perimenopause. Now, medically, there's only technically 2 stages, but let's be honest, there is way more gray gray area than the medicalized perimenopause is willing to give us credit for. So the first what I call early perimenopause or late reproductive stage is typically late 30s and very early 40s. And this is when estrogen and progesterone start fluctuating, but mostly progesterone. She starts to decline. Estrogen can start to just fluctuate a bit. First signs are sleep issues. PMS becomes a little bit more intense. Maybe you'll notice low stress tolerance, more mood changes, and brain changes. So that's going to be kind of that late reproductive stage. Number 2 is going to be your early perimenopause. This is early to mid 40s. I would say anywhere between 4 to 7 years. Like we could be in early perimenopause for quite some time. And this is where we're often getting gaslit because we still have a regular cycle. We still maybe we're not cycling 28 days, but we're consistently cycling 26 or 25 days. Yes, there may be some irregularities in our cycle due to cycles where we're not fully ovulating, but overall, we are still considered normal cycling women. And this is where doctors are like, oh, well, you're not old enough, or, oh, you just need birth control pills, or, hey, this is midlife, just suck it up, buttercup. Like that's very much the narrative of what I hear from women when they go to their doctors. And so at this point, progesterone is declining. Estrogen is swinging, particularly again, probably in the luteal phase and also a little bit in the follicular phase. You again notice shorter periods, mood swings, maybe some night sweats right before your period, maybe migraines, anxiety, so more mood symptoms, more not feeling like yourself symptoms, and maybe your PMS symptoms are stretching a bit. So instead of it being only 3 to 4 days, now it's like 5 to 7 days. And so again, worth paying attention to in tracking your symptoms against your cycle. Then 3 is late perimenopause. This is going to be mid 40s to early 50s. And this is where we always assumed this was perimenopause, was late perimenopause. So again, mid to late 40s into early 50s, 1 to 3 years. So once you're in late perimenopause, you're basically in late perimenopause for about 3 years until you finally get to menopause. So estrogen is declining significantly. Progesterone has been declining. You have very little of that reserve left. Gaps of 60 plus days between periods, brain fog, vaginal dryness, hot flashes, night sweats, maybe intense bleeding, so flooding, but symptoms really feel like they are more exacerbated. Weight gain, anxiety, depression, all of that is coming to a head. This is kind of when you're in the eye of the storm, this would be late perimenopause. And then you've got menopause. And this is around the average age is 50 and 51. Although again, natural menopause can happen anywhere between 45 and 55, the average age of menopause where you have not had a period for 12 months is about 51 years old. So estrogen and progesterone remain very low and stable. 12 months without a period marks menopause. And again, for many women, symptoms may linger, but some will improve. The only issue is that when we lose these life-giving hormones, physiological changes have happened that can drive things like insulin resistance, unfavorable, biomarkers, neuroinflammation. So things that are a little bit more insidious that are starting to lock and load in postmenopause. So I think it's important to kind of understand, okay, well, what stage am I in? Again, many of us are kind of in that early perimenopausal stage dealing with symptoms, yet cycle is pretty regular. And that's where I find that we really don't support women. It's once they're in late perimenopause, again, we don't offer a lot of tools in modern medicine, but at least we're like, okay, we'll do something about it at this point. The next thing I always recommend for any woman is to know your numbers. Ideally, start to collect a timeline of your most important biomarkers so that you can figure out what is your numbers and your normal, or areas that need more support. Are lipids going out of range? Is your fasting glucose going up? Is your inflammatory markers going up? So it's important to be looking at these things because over time in perimenopause is when we start to see these numbers move in an unfavorable direction. Now, it's not all of these numbers, and for some of us, it may have started even earlier than perimenopause, but we do see defining changes happen in your biomarkers in this transition due to the loss of these whole body hormones. And as I mentioned earlier, because I'm about to read some of them right now, I include all of these labs in the Thriving in Perimenopause Survival Guide, which you can easily download. Again, the link is in the show notes. So when you're looking at blood tests, it's going to be serum blood tests that I would run annually. And if your doctor won't run these labs, there are so many direct-to-consumer labs that have similar lab panels that you can easily order, like through Quest Labs, Function Health, Inside Tracker. I think even Levels does them. I mean, there are so many places where we can run Rupa labs. So yeah, there's a lot of places that you can run labs out of pocket. And honestly, not that crazy. We're talking about a couple $100. Even there's just a lot of companies that are running labs these days that make it very, very affordable. So labs to request in a fasted state, meaning that you should fast 10 to 12 hours prior to running these labs. So I always recommend, if you're going to run labs, always do it in the morning, probably ideally around 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, especially if you're running a thyroid panel, you want to do it before 10 a.m. And here's the thing, in a fasted state in the morning, like that's going to give you a very good clue. But as the day progresses, your biomarkers are going to adapt. So the earlier in the morning, the better. I try to get to my lab at 8 a.m. in the morning. That way I can drink my coffee afterwards. And so then what you want to think about is, okay, for 10 to 12 hours prior, you just want to drink water. So I try to end eating dinner at 7 p.m. the night before, and then I don't consume anything but water until after I run my labs first thing in the morning. So these are the labs I want you to consider. A full lipid panel, so total cholesterol, LDL, HDL, ideally an ApoB, triglycerides, and a lipoprotein little a if you can get it. A complete blood panel with differential, which is very standard and typical. You don't usually have to ask for that. A comprehensive metabolic panel that's going to have your fasting glucose in it. It's going to look at your liver enzymes, a lot of other things. Ideally, a fasting insulin. You may have to beg for it, but try to get it. Vitamin D, ferritin and iron panel, highly sensitive C-reactive protein, a hemoglobin A1C, and then a thyroid panel, looking at thyroid stimulating hormone, free T4, free T3, and your thyroid antibodies. And then bonus, if you can get it, I love looking at uric acid, B12, folate, and I also love looking at hormones, if you can get them. So when I'm looking at hormones, especially in peri, ideally, I would love to test testosterone, which is the full gamut, total testosterone, free testosterone, sex hormone binding globulin, it's all wrapped up. And then I want to test progesterone. And again, if you want to capture progesterone, ideally you are testing 5 to 7 days after ovulation, right? So for a 28-day cycle, that's like between days 19 and 21. But if you're running a 26-day cycle, it'd probably be days 18, 19. And then again, testing estradiol the same time that you're testing progesterone and testosterone. If you want to see if you're kind of heading towards late perimenopause, a follicular stimulating hormone lab would be really helpful as well. And then lastly, know that your body and hormones are shifting and transitioning during this time in your life. So extra grace is required as you transition from childbearing years into your wisest midlife years. During this time, get clear on your non-negotiables for your health and for your overall well-being, and embrace the pivots that your body is making right now, but ultimately put practices and habits in place that will help you thrive as your body pivots, because that is happening no matter what. And you can either set yourself up for success or just go into default mode. And the default mode isn't going to do you any favors necessarily. So I recommend focus on eating for your energy, metabolism, blood sugar, brain, liver, and gut. Move your body daily and focus on getting stronger to maintain that muscle and bone mass through lifting weight and just moving throughout the day. Like I always say, move as much as possible whenever possible. Like that is the name of the game. Continue to do the emotional work and clear the patterns that aren't serving you anymore. Get outside in nature to support your circadian rhythm. Take supplements to support your cell signaling, your mitochondrial function, hormone communication, along with supporting detox pathways. Think your gut and liver. Commit to a solid sleep routine. Again, treat your sleep routine like it's $1 million meeting. Nurture and support relationships, especially ones that matter to you, like deep friendship and deep connection and family. And then lead with gratitude and joy, because honestly, they spiral together in an upward trajectory that feels good in your body and really helps you to live the most beautiful life. And although I do plan to continue to dive in a bit deeper about what I would love this transition to represent for you. These are the pieces of advice that I would be giving myself in creating really good rituals and habits to support this beautiful transition. Just know that I'm holding the vision for you to not only navigate this journey with ease and grace, but also with as much aliveness and vitality as you can get. And as I close this episode out, I want you to know that I am always here for you and with you. Even though we have gotten perimenopause terribly wrong in the medical system and in society, I want you to know that there are many of us that are fighting the good fight to really educate everywhere and anywhere. As I mentioned, I have just poured my heart and soul into my upcoming book that doesn't come out until October of 2025, but it is coming. I just approved the cover, which I'm so excited for. Again, it's called the Perimenopause Revolution book, and it is my deepest goal that this book be an epic resource for thousands of women who are in perimenopause and who are seeking support, but also for women in their 30s that are approaching perimenopause and they just want to feel prepared for what to expect in the decade-long transition to menopause. There is so much that we can do. And I promise I'm going to cover all the bases in this book. And I hope that it's a beacon of light during a challenging time that speaks to your experience and offers you a gold standard protocol that helps you navigate as beautifully as possible. If you love this episode, if you learned something from this episode and you feel like, man, someone else needs to hear this because they need to know. They need to know they need to understand the mistreatment of women in perimenopause, what we got wrong in perimenopause, and they just need to feel validated in their experience. Please, please, please share the episode. Also take a moment and subscribe to this show, rate the show. It just helps more women to find these resources and to feel empowered in this really, really important journey. Until the next episode, have a beautiful day. Thank you so much for watching. Now, if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments. And if you are ready to learn more about perimenopause and how to navigate with a lot of ease and grace, be sure to subscribe to this channel so that you can join our community. Don't forget to share this video with someone that you love, that you know is navigating the perimenopause journey as well, because they deserve to feel their best too. See you in the next video.